Faculty Resources and Advising webinar. Thank you all for coming. It is being recorded. It will be shared on ctstate.edu/webinars. I'll throw the link in the chat. We are going to save questions for the end. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat and it'll be addressed at the end. And I'm going to turn it over.
Hi there. I'll take the baton from you. So hello, everybody. My name is Amy Feest. I am the AVP of Programs and Curriculum here at CT State. We are very happy to be with you today. We have a variety of presenters and overall panelists to answer all of your questions. We do have a brief presentation to start us off today, but we did want to leave more than enough time at the end for questions and answers because we feel that's probably a great way to get at the heart of questions you may have. So I am going to share my screen and get us started for a moment. And if somebody can just let me know that I am sharing my screen, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you, Gayle.
Yep.
So again, good afternoon. This is the Academic Affairs Update on Faculty Resources and Advising. So today with us, we have the following panelists. We have Gayle Barrett, who is our AVP of Enrollment and Retention Services. We have Mike Buccilli, who is the AVP of Student Success Management. We have myself. We have Manuel Gomez, the AVP of Academic Operations. We have Provost LaPierre-Derger, the Interim Provost and VP of Academic Affairs, and Mike Sefanowicz, our Interim AVP of Higher Education Transitions. So to get us started today, the first on our docket is going to be Mike Sefanowicz. He is going to provide a welcome to everybody and a little bit of an overview, and then we will take it from there.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Sefanowicz, and if you've been involved in governance or alignment or any of the committees we've been working on for Connecticut State in the past 3 years, you're probably sick of seeing me or hearing from me, as I've touched a lot of different projects and been involved in a lot of different things. I have a little bit of the institutional memory, as they say, as we go forward. But I just wanted to welcome everyone. I wanted to say a big thank you and a special thank you for those who are taking the time today. I know it's finals week and folks are busy and we're getting into the grading season as well. But I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about the resources that are available, to learn a little bit about scheduling and advising and degree works. I also want to thank everybody who's participated in this process. Obviously, a merger of 12 institutions is a complicated endeavor. And there's been a lot of hard work done over the past 3.5, 4 years by folks who are on this call and folks who may not be on the call who you don't see working behind the scenes. We hit a real big milestone in March when we launched our One College banner, and we started registering students for fall, and we'll hear an update on that going forward. But I want to thank all the faculty on the call who participated in the alignment projects so that we were able to create aligned programs, all of the advising folks for working with students as we work through the transition. This is complicated. I will remind people that we took over 1,000 programs statewide and merged them and aligned them into 300 coherent degrees and certificates statewide. We also took over 4,000 courses and aligned them and brought them down to 1,700 courses. So we have our Connecticut State catalog. It's been available since November, listing our programs and our courses. A lot of hard work went into the curriculum alignment, the course development, and then a lot of hard work went into the technology of building the catalog, of building banner, of building degree works. That being said, I will recognize that things are not perfect. We are learning as we go, and a merger of this nature is complicated. Degree Works has been programmed to match the Connecticut State catalog that you see online. However, that doesn't mean that things are seamless, and it doesn't mean that we knew about every course substitution or every variance or every exception that needed to be made. Remember, we took, in some cases, 12 versions of a program and created one for Connecticut State. And it's complicated to make sure things line up correctly in degree works, that electives count correctly, that everything lines up properly. So we're working hard. The staff for degree works, for Banner, for Accolog have been working incredibly hard for a number of years, but especially in the last few months. And you'll hear a little bit about that work. What I will ask is just for your patience, for your cooperation. We need everybody's help to help students through this process and this merger. We're finding things every day that we didn't know about. A course that we didn't assume would be equal to another course, but now a faculty member is telling us, yes, that's okay to make those courses equivalent. A course that should substitute for another course, not equivalent, but can substitute for our legacy students, the students who were enrolled right at one of our legacy institutions. So there's lots of programming going on and lots of changes being made. As we find these issues, we're programming them as fast as we can. And I've worked with a number of folks, perhaps on this call and throughout our system, who I think if you ask around your campus can tell you our responsiveness, our work troubleshooting together. We need to discover the issues, we need to communicate the solutions, and we need to work together. I know that there has been concern and folks have been asking about students who run a degree audit and their percentage of completion has gone down, but we're making changes to bring that back up for students. Excuse me. So just wanted to start by kind of setting the groundwork there. We're going to talk a little bit today about the resources that are available for faculty to help students and to advising, some of our definitions of some of our terms, talk about scheduling updates, advising updates, degree works, share some data on the fall registration, and then have some time for questions and answers. So, Amy, I think I covered it all. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add or move us along, but go ahead.
I think you did a great job, Mike. So I am going to actually move us along. And I am the first up of our series of folks who are going to be talking for a few minutes before we do Q&A. So one of the things that we have been trying very hard to do is to do a centralized location for all the resources needed for advisors and for faculty. So as you can see here, we do have a website that we have created, and I will take you there in one moment, but it is a website that is ctstate.edu/curriculum. For those of you who are familiar, that's the same website that we used for the past several years when we were going through alignment from the Aligned Program Review Committee. But we have kind of adapted that current site, and we have now made it to have information that we feel is relevant, but we are always looking for more ideas on what we can put there to make it even more helpful. So let me quickly kind of toggle over to this page. So this is the current page, and it's a constantly evolving page. And as you can see, hold on one second. As you can see, there's 5 basic buckets. The biggest one is faculty resources. And on this page, you'll find direct links to college degree works, to the course search, to the new MyCT State portal, which is the old MyComNet. A quick link to Blackboard, just because it seems very helpful to have it there with all these other resources, and a direct link to all of the shared governance forms. We heard from a lot of individuals that they wanted direct links to the forms to be filled out for the SDCs. And these are the direct links for all of those course change, new courses, program changes, all of those forms. Here's a direct link to the CT State catalog, which is really your one main stop for everything degree and certificate programs. A link to the historical documents as they were approved by the Board of Regents as things came through the APRC. A link to all of the course outlines as they were approved by APRC or as they are currently going to be as they're currently going through governance for new course outlines. We are going through all of them to make sure they are accurate for the gen eds and for other information. So as you are looking at them, if they do not look like the gen eds have been updated, know that we are working our way through. We're about halfway through, but there is still some work to be done. We're working on it diligently. There's over 1,800 of them. Here is a link to legacy courses and programs. If you take you to this page, and you can see that there are 2 different documents, one that I just uploaded very recently today, another one that was uploaded about 2 weeks ago. And as you click on them, they will open up a document that will show you, let me make this a little bit bigger. It shows you all of the CT State legacy course programs. And oh, I actually just realized when I did this today, that made it a super long document. I will re-upload this as soon as we're done. It will list every single legacy program, and it will tell you what college it's at and what the new current college is. This is only showing me the legacy ones because it's such a large document. It actually made it into extra columns. I have to shrink it down and resave it as a PDF. Just did it right before the webinar. That's what I get for not checking it right before. There's also a link here, though, that I can show you that shows you course by course. And this actually shows you every single course as it existed in one of the CT State colleges and how that course has been crosswalked over to the new CT State courses. So every single course, whether it is a continuing course or a new course, as it existed in any one of the 12 schools, and now how that course crosswalks over to CT State. Here is our unique college program crosswalk. So all 12 colleges engaged in an activity last spring. They are still working on that, where they will take every unique individual legacy degree program and crosswalking course by course to how that class goes to CT State. This is specifically for use by advisors, faculty advisors, and GPA advisors to give guidance on how a course existed in a legacy degree and how that faculty member, that Feest program coordinator, is recommending that it moves over into CT State. There is also a second document that was added last week after we had received some requests, where there is guidance on how the TAP degrees, the TAP Framework 30, basically the Gen Ed for TAP, and how that moves over for CT State, specifically around some of the concerns where colleges had different competencies vetted for that B, that extra bucket, that B bucket, and how we are going to be moving them over seamlessly into CT State. Placement document for ACME, English, ESOL, and math placement with all of the cut scores and all of the information for where students will land on their math, English, and ESOL placement. We have here the course substitution document and the form for courses from legacy courses to CT State. This is not for students graduating this May. You should still be using your current college substitution form. This is only for legacy students who will not be graduating in May, but will be moving on in the fall into CT State and will need some substitutions to ensure that they are not losing credits that did apply before to a legacy class, to a legacy degree or certificate, but somehow does not seamlessly move over into a CT State degree or certificate. Here is the graduation variance procedure. For a student who completed all of the outcomes and courses in a legacy degree, but where one or more courses may have gone from, for example, a 3-credit course that is in the legacy program is now a 4-credit course in CT State. When that student adds up all of their classes, they may end up being 1 or 2 credits shy to graduate, but they have met all of the coursework and they have met all of the outcomes. This allows us to not require the student to take an additional class to make sure that they meet the new CT State degree credit requirements. Again, they would have to meet their legacy degree requirements, but if they're a credit or 2 shy because a course went from 3 to 4 credits, they took it at 3, it's now 4. We don't want to hold that student to be harmed. And here is some prereq guidance. Specifically, we are honoring prereqs from all legacy degrees. So if a student has been on track this fall, for example, to take a course, and all of a sudden in CT State, that course has a brand new prereq that did not exist at that legacy college before, we do not want that student to be held to have to take another prereq that they did not plan on. So here is the guidance for all the state, all the courses. And here's also guidance for selective admissions program, where we'll be continuing to honor the science and math for this next round of incoming selective admissions programs, so that students, again, who have been taking courses for multiple semesters to get ready for that selective admission application, we don't all of a sudden have wanted to change the requirements for them when they will be applying this coming fall. A couple really quick other things that are resources on this page, and I reiterate again, we are really looking for your feedback for other things that would be helpful to put into this website. A link to the ACME the alignment and completion of math and English. All of the resources are here. This was a holdover. This has been around for a long time. We continue to keep the math, the English, and the ESOL updated for the course numbers, the course outlines, the course flow chart. You'll see the same under English and ESOL. You will see a link here to Gen Ed. Specifically, this will tell you the Connecticut State Community College Gen Ed core and all of the courses so far that have been approved. We will be coming up with a new Gen Ed subcommittee of Curriculum Congress, and they will be able to take under consideration additional courses for the Gen Ed. But for now, this is where we are with our Gen Ed core. A link to ACME. I'm sorry, I just said a link to ACME, a link to CCS 101, which is our college and career success course. The most important thing really here is that exemption procedure and the substitution procedure for students who are already carrying 24 credits, moving from their legacy college to CT State, or who already completed a course that would be the equivalent of the 101. And finally, the last button that was just added this morning is the academic program review. We have had a lot of calls for this. This is the documents for the program review that are being developed. So if anybody who has an academic program review that will be coming up again, they can refer to this, to the documents that are being created for all of those programs. And so I think that was my quick overview. Again, this is a really evolving website. Every day we are adding resources and changing resources. I will actually update that program page as soon as this is over, but we're constantly looking to make it to be as helpful as it can. And if you have any questions at the end of our presentation, I look forward to answering any questions you may have. So I am going to turn it over to Mike Sefanowicz, who's going to talk a little bit about some operational definitions that we have been using for CT State.
Great, thank you, Amy. Just want to run through a couple terms here and make folks aware of what's available to them as we go forward to work with students. Course substitutions is pretty standard, although I know at one college these were called variances. Course substitution is basically, right, we're saying this course will substitute for another course in my program. Often we do this during a teach out of a program, or when programs change over time. We will say, okay, this program maybe requires statistics with computers, but the student previously had taken statistics. So we would allow that to substitute in. Or perhaps there's a lifespan development course in psychology that's required, but that hadn't been offered at a college. Instead, they had taught child development or adolescent development, and they would allow that, or the student transferred that in. So course substitution is on an individual student level, one-to-one, and we have a form that we fill out. That is important to do, and to do the paperwork up front now, so the degree work shows that that substituted course counts. Legacy course substitutions are what we're calling substitutions that are needed because of the merger, because we've moved from 12 programs in some cases to one aligned program. You want to allow for a legacy course taken by a student to count in their program at Connecticut State. Because of the scope of the merger, we were unable to do teach outs of all 1,200 programs that existed prior to Connecticut State. So what we've told NECHI and what they've agreed to over a number of updates is that we will move students to the closest matching program at Connecticut State, and students have been migrated to that program. And then we will use substitutions, equivalencies, or variances to hold the student harmless and to make the least amount of impact as possible to them. So legacy course substitution may be an example where an oral communication course was in an old program, and going forward, that program has decided that now they want to require business communication. So maybe the student took speech under the old rules, public speaking, but now the business folks want everyone to take business comm. But we don't want to harm that student and say your public speaking didn't count, because it did count when the student took it. We're doing the same with Gen Eds, by the way. We've programmed all of the previous general education courses. When they were taken, if a course was a Gen Ed, it will count as a Gen Ed in the aligned program. Going forward, there's a separate list of new Gen Eds, but for legacy students, all the old Gen Eds count. So legacy courses, we need faculty's help with, because we did not assume, unless we were told during alignment, we did not assume that folks wanted to substitute child psych for adolescent psych or lifespan, for instance. So if faculty wish to do that, we can then program and do those substitutions, right? Jumping down, we can do a blanket course substitution. We can say for every student who was in a program where the program previously required child psychology, right? And the new program requires adolescent psychology, that those will equate, that will be a blanket course substitution. I'm using those as examples. I'm not exactly sure where we ended up with our psych courses. I know in the system we had child psych, we had adolescent psych, we had lifespan, we had adult development, lots of different versions, and the psych folks all got together and worked through which courses were going to remain and what that common curriculum is. So just using those as examples. So that's how we can do substitutions. We can do them on an individual basis. We can, for a unique student, we can do legacy courses on a program basis, and we can do blanket substitutions in degree works. So if for every student in a program who took a previous computer class, we want that to count in place of a new computer class that might have a different number and title, we can program them. Course equivalencies are a little different. Course equivalencies mean this previous course should equal in Banner this new course. And the important thing for course equivalencies is that it counts in the degree audit. It also counts for prerequisite checking. So an example might be, well, all of our English 101s had to be programmed. You'll remember we have letters on all of our courses, English B101, English C101, English D101. We had to program Banner to make sure that Banner knew all of those previous versions all equal English 1010, which is intro to comp. So that's what we did. We had to program all of those. And if the student took English C101, it will now count so they can take an upper level literature course or a second, composition course. I think there were 35 different versions of English comp in our system. So that's course equivalencies. And again, if you tell us that, and I know that, for instance, the computer science group, Richard Ganal from Manchester has been working with the leads in computers to get a very detailed list of which courses previously should equal which courses going forward. It's not always the same course. It may be that one course at Manchester equals a new course and a different course at Gateway equals that new course. While we had a common course numbering, I think we all realized not all of our courses were exactly common and not all of our degrees were exactly common. So it's not automatic that things, English was a good example where it's pretty clean, but it's not automatic that things equate to each other. The last item is a graduation credit variance. This is what Amy mentioned before. There's a process for this. Some of our degree programs increased in credit. Some of our degree programs in the past may have been an engineering course that was a 3-credit course. Now that course going forward is a 4-credit course. We're not going to make that student take that course over. That would not be holding them harmless or doing no harm. But it may look like they have the credit short. So what we've said is there's a form that can be filled out. If the student meets all the learning outcomes of the previous degree, their legacy degree, and they've taken all the courses in the degree, we can award the degree, even though their credits may not total the new number. Again, this is a little bit on a case-by-case basis because each student is unique. But the idea here is, if a foreign language was 3 credits and now it's a 4-credit, we're not going to make a student retake Spanish 1 to take Spanish 2, or if it's a requirement in a program, unless that's needed. If the faculty groups say that a course is really substantially different, it has to be repeated, then we won't do that. So again, it's really based on the guidance we're getting from the alignment groups, of the faculty now in their statewide discipline council or SDC. So those are some of our definitions. I know that took a while, but I just wanted to talk through those because we use these terms interchangeably. What I can say is I've worked with many faculty in different programs, and we've done some very detailed substitutions and equivalencies and blanket substitutions. And when we do those, they help multiple students. So we may look at one student scenario, but it may end up helping 80 students who enrolled in that degree program, who were migrated over. So we go through one at a time and we take a look at this issue, and where we can, we do programming to affect the largest number of students and minimize the impact. Thank you. Amy, I'm not sure the next slide, you're in charge, I think, right? Yeah. You're muted, Amy. I think you still stayed muted. Go ahead.
All right, Manuel, I'm turning it over to you. I put myself on mute and forgot to take myself off.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to give you a quick view of where we are with enrollments. And we are at about 27,000 seats to date. We'll have a little bit more details in another slide. But as we look at that enrollment and where our registrations are per modality, you can see that almost 12,000 seats have already been registered for traditional and almost 8,000 for online. And hybrid is about 2,000 and 1,300 for LRON. You can see a little bit of a comparison with previous terms in the next slide. Amy? And so this captures the percentage that the previous numbers align with as we look at the two previous semesters. The numbers that we shared in the last slide refer to the fall of 2023, and it's the third column here in gray. And you can see that the enrollment for traditional course modality stands right now at about 50%. You round it up to 51% of our total enrollment. And that's pretty much aligned with where we were last year for fall 2022, that first column in blue. At the start of the semester, we were at 52% basically. And we were at 52% this spring. So as we look at the fall semester, we're pretty much following the same trend. For online, there's only a very small increase, whereas for the fall of 2022, here in this blue column, we started at almost 31%. Right now, we're sitting at almost 33%. And that's right in line with where we ended up in the spring. So again, for traditional enrollment, it's pretty much the same as it is for online. Hybrid has changed also very little. Hybrid continues to be more popular than LRON. We'll see if that changes. But where there's a small increase, almost not significant, with 8.2 for the fall of 22, 8.5 for the spring of 23, and 9.2 right now for hybrid for fall of 23. And so that's a bit of an increase, and just also a bit of a decrease as we look at LRON percentage overall. The highest point was for the fall of 22 with 8.5. And this semester, at the start of the term, the spring of 23, we were at 6.5. Right now, as we are building enrollment for the fall of 23, we are at 5.5 here in this third column, which is in gray. So again, I think as you look at this information, you can say that students are following the same enrollment trends as they have done over the last previous calendar year. And can you move the next slide, Amy, please? Thank you. I thought that there was another slide, but we are good. Thank you.
So next, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Buccilli.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just some quick advising updates. The advisors, whether faculty or GP advisors, are continually identifying issues as they work with students, right? They're sitting side by side with the student, running the audit, and seeing courses that are not applied to degree. So that partnership there between faculty advisor or GP advisor and PC department chair is critical. As we think about those legacy substitutions, those really are different than what we've done in the past. And I've been meeting with a lot of the advising teams, and we've talked about this, right? In the past, a course substitution really was that PC talking with the student to say, you know, this one isn't going to be offered, so take this instead. This is very different. These are legacy courses that were counting in the old degree. They need to now count in the new degree. So that partnership that we have there to know where they will be applied in the new degree is essential so that we can tell students what they need to take in the upcoming semester or two. So I applaud those who are in the trenches working with students and continue to filter up whatever you find. And really making sure we live up to our promise of doing no harm to students. Our advising appointments, I can just speak for the GP advisors. I've heard from some faculty, but a lot of GP advisors, the time it's taking is considerably more. We used to set 30-minute appointments. Those have crept up to 45 and 60 minutes in some cases, because you really are kind of flipping back and forth between audits, looking at a crosswalk, helping the student get the substitution form ready, and it really requires kind of that back and forth there. And then after the appointment, there's a significant amount of follow-up. So I recognize how difficult it is right now. We're probably in our most difficult time. I expect that we're going to continue to work through these things. And as you heard Mike and Amy talk about, as soon as we get blanket substitutions in there, that really catches the problem upstream. It stops really this bottleneck of students waiting on a substitution or equivalencies that may have been overlooked. So as you discover these, please report them. I believe Gayle will touch on it, but her team, the outstanding work on the DegreeWorks team, Susan Wynn, who heads that up, has a form set up where you can send a screenshot and information to them, and they can investigate it. They'll reach out to the PC and make those adjustments in the technology system. So again, just thank you for the continued hard work and the patience. We are all here to try to make sure we do not cause any harm to students based on the merging of the 12-to-1 curriculum. So thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. And I'm going to now turn it over to Gayle.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gayle Barrett. I'm the Associate Vice President of Enrollment and Retention Services. And I was talking to you today briefly about where we are at DegreeWorks as far as an update with some fall registration numbers. So DegreeWorks, as has been said earlier, it really is a tool that reflects the curriculum as noted in our catalog. So the more information that we have and the more updates we can make, the better the audit will be for our students. So while it may look slightly different from the campus DegreeWorks that you're used to, it is important to note that both the 12 college DegreeWorks and 1 college DegreeWorks operate using the same version. So it is the same version of DegreeWorks. The design may look slightly different as it is now streamlined to a Connecticut state design. Our DegreeWorks team will be scheduling some refresher training. Some have already taken place in some of our campuses this semester, and we'll be continuing that to make sure everyone is comfortable using DegreeWorks. As Mike Buccilli mentioned earlier, we do have a ticketing system through Microsoft Forms to let the DegreeWorks team know of any issues, and I will be happy to share with you that we have been informed of issues as we go. Susan Wynn and her team have done an outstanding job. They've received 943 tickets to this point, submitted by approximately 150 faculty and staff across our state. As of about an hour and a half ago, 807 of those tickets have been responded to and completed. It is important to note that sometimes the tickets we receive are actually not DegreeWorks issues and more related to catalog, etc. So we do make sure we reach out to the appropriate team to make sure they can get resolved for that particular user. We also have received some tickets through this system for course substitutions, and just a friendly reminder not to use a Microsoft form for a course substitution. That should use the specific course substitution form and process that is already in place. To give you some numbers as well, we've processed over 500 individual course substitutions. That's thanks to Susan Wynn and her 5 degree audit technology specialists throughout the state. And they've also entered 38 blanket substitutions, which they've done after PC approval for students in those respective programs. I did ask the DegreeWorks team if there's any tips I should be sharing with this group this afternoon, and one tip I was given is that to make sure when you're working with students in a degree audit, please make sure you hit the process new button before reviewing the student's audit, because this will capture any updates that have been done and ensure that you're looking at the most up-to-date information for your students. If you can go to the next slide for me. Perfect. Thank you, Amy. So this is just going to capture some registration data. This is as of 8 a.m. this morning. So as Manuel said earlier, we have approximately just under 28,000 seats that have been registered for, with 10,238 students, which is actually fairly in line with what we had in the same date last year for fall of 2022. Of those registrations, 72% of those were done online through MyCT State. 28% of those registrations were done on campus. An interesting fact, about 2,198 students have registered for classes at more than one campus. So we have data we've been keeping track of students who registered for these campuses, and we have been doing data checks specifically for students who registered at 4, 5, or 6 campuses to ensure this was an intentional registration on behalf of the student. I'm happy to share the vast majority we've seen actually look very intentional. Most of them are a combination of online courses at a variety of campuses. We've had a very small handful, I would say probably under 10 students, that we do need to make sure we do some follow-up. These are cases of students who registered for traditional campus offerings that don't look like they may have been quite as intentional. So we are doing outreach with students who are finding that we want to make sure we're matching students to their correct courses. But this does give you a rough idea as far as where we are with the fall 23 enrollment cycle. And I believe I'm actually the concluding slide of our official presentation. We've nicely asked Tam O'Day-Stevens to serve as our moderator this afternoon. So she's going to make sure that we're addressing all of your questions. So Tam, I'll be quiet and turn it over to you.
We've had a few questions come into the chat. I'll start. I have 4 total right now, but I'm sure that more might come in as we go. The first one is, will prereq exemptions only be for 23 and 24? How will this impact students' ability to succeed? That was the first question that came in. Will prereq exemptions only be for 23, 24?
I can try answering that. Yeah, it depends how the prereq exemption is being programmed. So if it's a substitution or a blanket prereq exemption, we can program DegreeWorks so that would be ongoing. If someone is overriding a prereq for a registration, that's term specific. And Mike might be able to answer this from his advising staff, but those are normally entered one term at a time. And we don't have the ability to enter them for a longer period. So it's a kind of a depends answer. If it's a programming issue that we can make so that, for instance, if a student took intermediate algebra, they should now be able to take statistics. We program that, and that I'm not sure that would be an exemption to the question. But Mike, would you agree with that approach?
Yes, I would add, there have been some discussions about selective admission programs and honoring the math prereq to get into the science courses. And there was an agreement amongst the faculty and program coordinators that those would be honored for this next application cycle. That's it. So in that case, if a student had met with an advisor 3 semesters ago, never saw the advisor again, was getting all A's, following their path as they had planned, already had their math done and was planning to take these sciences in the fall, we didn't want that student to be harmed, so they'd be honored. The student had left and comes back a year later, we would want to engage them in the statistics course to take for that selective admission program, for example. I think there can be other cases, though, where it could be done on a case by case if the student had the prereq isn't a readmit, right? They're a readmit after 4 major terms being out or 2 years. When they readmit, they come in under the new catalog. You have a student, let's say, who's out for 2 or 3 semesters and they return in spring of 24 or fall of 24. There may be some case by case depending on the course, as long as it doesn't have those implications for selective admissions.
Yeah, and I would just add that I believe the current practice at most, if not all of our colleges, is if a prereq changes, that normally is effective immediately. It's effective with the next registration period. So unlike a catalog term where students, when they enroll, they follow a specific year of the catalog. Most of our colleges, the student doesn't stay with the prereqs in the catalog of the year they started with. They're affected by those prereqs in place at the time of registration in order to hold students harmless for making exceptions to that as we go forward. But normally, if the prerequisite is raised to take calculus, the new student has to meet the new prereq. That's kind of the way it's worked. So just to add that. So it's a little bit of case by case, it depends. I know we have some more questions, Tam, so I'll let us move on. Yep.
The next comment was, will the new subjects and course numbers be added to the legacy courses matched to the CT State courses document? I think that's an Amy question, yes. Will the new subjects and course numbers be added to the legacy courses matched to the CT State courses document?
Yes, so I'm actually pulling that document up right now. So the legacy, let me hold on a minute. So
Yeah,
I'm going to share my screen for 1 second, just so you can see what I'm seeing. So as you can see, share. It does have the legacy course, the name and the number to the CT State. I'm assuming what is being asked is here if we will have the legacy course names. I mean, we have the legacy course numbers. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know because sometimes there are multiple courses listed. But can I just ask if that is is that the request? Because I can make that request and see if that is possible.
There's another piece to it. It said, I clicked on a couple and found the former course numbers, not the new numbers.
I will also add that these are this is pulling from Acalog. So let's go to the online catalog. For the courses we are aware of that are equivalencies, the new course will show, and there's a column, a field called previous, which lists the previous course numbers. I don't know if that quite answers I'm not sure I understood the question, Tam, but the purpose of that form that file Amy shared was to show old numbers, new numbers.
Mike,
Yeah.
would you mind if I show the catalog really quickly to show what you're talking about? Because I think that would be helpful. So if you look for any class that you click on, this is in the CT State. And if you go to course descriptions and you can look up any prefix that you would like. So I can look at, art, and then I hit filter and it will bring up all the art courses. And if you go to any course, it will tell you what the previous course name was. And if that course was with multiple names at multiple different legacy schools, that would list all of them here. So every single course, this is being pulled, like Mike had just said, to that database but it actually would, you would show it to you for anything. So that may be an easier and more helpful way to see that.
Another clarification came in. No, it's the crosswalk doc.
Oh, the crosswalk docs. If you'll give me 5 seconds, because there's been a couple questions I've seen in the chat about the crosswalk docs. So the crosswalk documents were created by program coordinators, and everything that has been given to me has been uploaded to the website that everyone has access to right now. So if a crosswalk was created and it does not have the new information, I have been speaking to the faculty and the program coordinators at any of the colleges who will invite us to attend. In fact, we're going to one right after this meeting. I think I've gone to 5 before this. I have said to the program coordinators, please look at your crosswalk. If it is out of date, if it needs updating, just send it to me and I will replace it with whatever is in the crosswalk documents folder now for your individual school. There was a comment that was made by an individual that said that their campus seems to have had new crosswalks, but the GPAs don't have access to them because they're not in this folder. That's only because nobody gave them to me to put there. So please spread the word. Ask on your campus, ask your colleagues, your academic dean, if they have received them, to share them with me, because I have no other way to put the latest versions onto that shared website. So we can't there's 1,700 of them. So for us to update each one would really be almost impossible. But anybody who can update them, we will update it. I could do it in real time and get it there in a matter of minutes if it's sent to me.
Could I just add a quick comment there? That's so important for the advisors who are trying to figure out where the legacy course would go in the new CT state program. So a big thanks to everyone who's continuing to update those crosswalks.
There's been a few questions in the chat regarding DegreeWorks training. I think that's centered towards Gayle.
Yes.
So when and where can they find that training and when those
Sure.
dates are, Gayle?
Yeah.
And also some questions came in regarding substitutions and would they get that information at a DegreeWorks training?
Sure. So let me start. So the DegreeWorks refresher trainings are in the process of being scheduled. So when they are scheduled, it'll be announced at each campus when those dates are available. They have taken place at a couple campuses so far, so we'll have that information once the schedule is available. DegreeWorks training as far as how to, and I'm not sure what the question is with regards to course substitution. So just from a process standpoint, the DegreeWorks team enters the course substitutions into DegreeWorks. So as far as training goes, when reading the audit, people would see where the course substitution has been entered, but we will not be providing training about how to enter a substitution, if that makes any sense.
Thank you.
Sure.
And there was a thank you, Amy. What you shared was clarifying. So thank you. Next question was, hold on one second. Let me get to the next one. Will course substitutions be allowed for transfer degrees?
Yeah, I can answer that. It may relate to TAP degrees. If so, that substitution process is a little more complicated because we have to make sure that that course will transfer in the TAP degree to the 4-year institution. For folks that have worked with our TAP Pathways degrees, you know it's not an automatic or local substitution. We often include Steve Marcellinus, who is the transfer director at the CSCU system office. As far as other degrees that may be used for transfer, like a liberal arts degree, or there's a degree business administration transfer, but it's not a TAP degree. Yes, we can substitute those courses, although it is important to make sure that the student isn't going to be harmed moving on. So I think it's important to have the faculty advisor, the program coordinator work with a guided pathways advisor to make sure that the substitution is appropriate and the student won't end up missing a course down the road. Often we want to maximize the credits the student's earning towards a degree, but we also don't want to create problems down the line. And often the faculty, program coordinators, PCs, department chairs, and the GP advisors working together can map that out.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. The next question is, Examples that were given deal with courses that are clearly equivalent when doing substitutions. One of the biggest challenges is that we're finding general education requirements students took in legacy programs that have no clear home or parallel. How does do no harm apply in these circumstances? Could you clarify?
I can start there, and I'm sure my colleagues will jump in. But I know that I kind of mentioned this in my slide, that this is foreign for us, right? All of us who have worked in advising and faculty kind of collaboration on substitutions, we would never have thought to put a gen ed in for a program course. But with the do no harm agreement that we made to students and told NETCHI, you can do that, right? That is within your right as the PC. Telling us where they go is important. You wouldn't want to bump out an accounting course that is absolutely critical, but you might put that gen in for a business elective, right? That would be really where we need to work in partnership with the faculty to understand where those go. And it is foreign to us, right? We've never been in any higher ed institution where that typically happens. But because we are not teaching out and we're going from 12 to 1, and that student met the requirements of their legacy degree program, they filled spots, they shouldn't be penalized for following the curriculum in good faith. So we're working a little bit to see if we can adjust and streamline that process a bit. So a few of us have been meeting, and hopefully we can come up with some strategies that'll give that kind of guidance and expedite that process a bit.
And Mike, I'm going to add to that too, if I can. We also, just to be clear, some of you might be asking questions, well, what about in some of our specialized accredited programs, for example? We have received clear feedback from many of the accreditation bodies that we work with, like nursing and others, that they want evidence to show that we are not doing harm to students, that we've not moved the goalpost further for students. So if they've completed work that was required previously, all that work must be, homed somewhere in their new degree. So this is not something that's just happening within CT State. It's in collaboration with other accrediting bodies as well.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point. We're saying do no harm to the student, and the faculty is thinking, well, I don't want to harm the student by not giving them the right skills to move on. So you have to kind of make your best judgment as the faculty on which course, they could live without essentially as they move out of their associates and into their bachelor's or into the workforce. So those are some difficult decisions. Those crosswalks tell us a lot, but they're not all there and complete, and there still is a considerable lift on all of us as partners.
And also, just one more clarification. This is for courses that were required or courses that satisfied a requirement previously. So if a student took, 3 or 4 extra courses in a particular area just because they were interested in something, but they did not fill a requirement or satisfy a requirement previously, then they cannot be moved forward. So there is, this is not just a blanket for everything gets moved ahead. It's only those courses that were either required or satisfied the requirements previously.
And one more comment, Miah, you and I are bouncing off each other. You got to look at the 2 audits side by side. That's what it comes down to. You're looking at the legacy audit for the 12C, for your Norwalk audit on business administration, and then you're looking at the CT State one. And if you see some courses that were applied and now they're saying not applied, that's where you figure out what to do with those 2 not applied courses in the CT State program.
And if I could I saw a couple other comments come in. So seeing the DegreeWorks audit really helps us kind of decipher and unpack and figure out how best to program things. So I think there was the question earlier was about gen eds that don't seem to be fitting into the new gen ed core. I will say that we instructed the DegreeWorks team when they programmed the new gen ed core to be as liberal as possible so that, again, if a course counted as a gen ed previously at your institution, that would not go away, that course should count as a gen ed for Connecticut State. Now, where does it line up and how does it fit in is partly a question. But when we look at that, we can try and tweak things in the DegreeWorks audit or do blanket course substitutions. I see another comment that's where folks are concerned about putting, a gen ed course in where a program course fits, or a program course in where a gen ed fits. And you're right, that's a little bit complicated. And we have to be careful about that because there are NESI standards about having, a certain percentage of the degree be general education and a certain amount being program. But so far, we've been able to try to work through a lot of these issues. If a course was a gen ed in one category, we should be able to count it as a gen ed in the core. It, may not line up exactly. And again, I've worked with a number of folks who have sent me the degree audits, and you're certainly welcome to do so directly. You can send them to me. You can send them to other folks on the team. You can work with the DegreeWorks through that form that's on the research page. That's what we're doing. We're constantly updating. So we find out that, oh, this course, which is the humanities, really should count as an arts and humanities gen ed at this previous, at this college, future campus. So again, just working with us as a partner. I think that's the key phrase, Mike, as a partner, and we can try to work through it. You're right. We want to hold students harmless, but we also want to protect the integrity of the academic program and maintain within the standards. So it's a balance.
I just saw a question too about how long will we have access to the legacy DegreeWorks, and we've asked for that to be extended, and I'll let Gayle talk about that. Because we know we're going to need it through this academic year. We're going to continue to have to look at old audit compared to the new CT State audit.
Right, and just to kind of piggyback, we hadn't determined the end date for 12 college degree works, but certainly keeping that in mind because we know it's critical to have both for now.
There was another question about, is there a CT State faculty and or student handbook? And when do we anticipate those being completed?
I can speak to the student handbook. I've been involved with the handbook, and we've taken what was in the 12 handbooks and where it was consistent, moved it over. There are some pieces that are policy that would need to go through governance before they could be changed, and we just don't have the time to get everything through governance. So some things will come over, even though they've been marked as kind of, these should be revised. So I don't have the exact date. I think I had heard within the next week or two, we were going to be to a final draft of the student handbook, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues about the faculty handbook.
So I guess ditto on everything Mike said to the faculty handbook. We do have a faculty handbook draft completed. It went out to multiple different volunteers at the campuses to take a look at, to do some final revisions. Once it's done, it will go by a group that is going to look at it for diversity, equity, and inclusion to ensure that it has the correct language, that we've included all the correct policies and everything else. But it's pretty close to go. I'm hoping that over the summer, we will have it finalized and it will be uploaded and ready to go for the beginning of the fall semester. Again, as Mike said, it was a huge undertaking because we took the 12 individual handbooks, some of which were geared for adjuncts, some of which were geared for full-time, some of which were a combination, and we tried to bring them together and make sure that we included all the relevant information for all faculty.
Thank you. Amy, I got a couple of private messages. Could you please review if the crosswalks are not correct, what they should do?
So it's funny, while I was talking, several of you have emailed crosswalks to me coming through my email. If the crosswalks are not correct, just email me the correct crosswalks. I will put them into the folder for the appropriate institution. And there is no one size fit all. If a program feels that the original crosswalk document wasn't helpful the way it was designed, anything that you feel would be most appropriate to help an advisor, they don't all have to be exactly the same. If your program is unique in a way that it doesn't really work well for you, just create something that somebody, when you were not there, would be able to give good advising to a legacy student who is continuing on. That's the best advice I can give.
We've had all the questions that were in the chat.
I would just say this has been really, really helpful whenever we hear these questions. So if folks would like to get together again and we pull a subset, or as many of us who can attend, and just answer questions, because I think the more we hear these questions, the more we realize where we need to clarify information and it leads us to a better outcome for our students and all of us in our day-to-day work.
And I know many of us have been visiting campuses and we're happy to do so as well to whatever specific groups you need. Just, connect with somebody on this call and we'll make sure we can arrange that for you.
And-
Yeah, there's one other thing that popped in. They've been trying to get students transferred back into AA degree, but no one seems to want to handle this. Who can do this?
Can whoever asked the question give me some more context for what the issue? I'm sensing it's my area, but I just need a little bit more
Okay.
context.
Yeah, she can email me directly. We do have a batch conversion for students who may have been moved to a program that isn't the right program for them.
Okay.
We have about 5 programs where we need to do this. So I don't know which exact program this is at which school, but if they let us know, we can make sure that they're on that list.
Really quickly, I just want to let everybody know I've gotten a whole bunch of folks who said, what's the easiest way to get to that faculty resource page if we didn't bookmark it? Just this morning, I asked marketing, if you go to ctstate.edu and scroll all the way to the bottom, it actually now has a link to faculty advising and resources, which will bring you right to that page. So the bottom of ctstate.edu will get you there.
I think that's everything. I don't see any other questions.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So this was recorded. It will be available at ctstate.edu/webinars with the slide presentation. So you can, we should be able to get it up within a day or two. And thank you all. It seems like this was super informative.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Monday.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.